Greetings from a rather wet south of England, a bit rainy today. I'm back in the workshop, kind of just gently getting on with the current batch of violins. I'm doing some work on fingerboards at the moment. Interestingly, this time round, I'm actually not going to be using ebony. I'm going for something more sustainable, which fits in with my ethos on the world generally. And I'm going to be using rock maple, which is going to be stained black with a couple of interesting stains. I'll go into that in detail some other time. But what I wanted to have a quick look at was how I plane the fingerboards to the taper. Because the fingerboard taper is generally the same, because that's what violinists expect, it's something that you can make a jig up for quite easily. Well, I do, so that whenever I get to do a fingerboard, it's quite a fast operation. So I use a good old-fashioned shooting board. So the first thing to notice about this is it is a board with a bit of wood in it. So that bit of wood is so I can grip it in the vise. On top of that board we have another board screwed flat to that, and that enables my number 7 plane to sit on that board. There's a healthy addition of wax along there, and so that can slide up and down there really easily. Then I've rough cut the fingerboard to shape, and that just sits in there. So the plane sits on there. The first thing I do is actually just bring that alongside as a straight edge and gauge how straight that cut was. I can see on this one there's a bump there, so the first thing I'll do is take that out, and I'll work forwards and backwards, taking wood off everywhere except at the very sort of top and end, so that I get it a straight line between those 2 points. Once I'm happy with that, like I am now, I then gauge, I'm hoping you can see that from there, I then gauge how much there is to come off. Is it the same top and bottom? It is in this particular instance, so let's just get straight in there and take it down. It needs to go down about a millimetre and a half on this side. And of course, because I'm using a shooting board, this will be perfectly square to the blank. Right, that's a good start. Because this was marked out using a template, and the template was the exact size that I wanted, I need for the whole of the pencil line to have disappeared before it's the right size. But I'm leaving half the pencil line on. If you can see that, I'm leaving half the pencil line on that edge until I've done this edge as well. So a quick eyeball on this suggests we're close to the line at this end and quite a long way off on this end. So, and there's a bump there. So I will be taking something off this end and there to start off with, and not taking anything off there. I don't use shooting boards for many operations, but this is a nice simple one where it really makes life easier. So that's good, we're on the line. I'm looking for 24 at the top on that inner line and 42 at the bottom. So let's see what we've got. 25.6, let's just check that again. 25.5, so I've got 1.5 mil to take off at the top, 43 at the bottom, so I've got 1mm to take off at the bottom. So on each side I want to take off 1/2 mil down to 3/4 of a millimeter. So I'll be planing sort of, I'll take 1 cut, 2 cuts, 3 cuts, 1 cut, 2 cuts, 3 cuts on each side, if you sort of mean, so that I'm taking more from here. And I would assume this is probably cutting about 0.1 of a mil at the moment, so that'll probably work out about right. We'll see. Let's just measure it again before I do the other side. 25. 42.9, so not taking off quite as much as I'd expected, so let's do a couple more complete passes. And then we'll do the same the other side. So you see, taking the first cut's that bit, second cut is all of that, and then the third cut is the whole length, which will just change the taper slightly. Right, how are we doing then? 24.0, 42.8, that's not ideal. 42.6, okay, because we're pretty much down there. Of course, having a bit of spare on the length means I can actually, when I fit it, I can fit it slightly further up, but hopefully we won't need to be doing that. So let's just take a little bit more off the bottom. And I'm not running this cut all the way through, apart from the last stroke. We're still at 24.0, and now we are at 42.0. So we've done it. There we are, exactly to the dimension I want. Very easy to do. What I would say as well, it being a taper, because this is cut from some fairly straight grain timber, when you're cutting at the taper, it means that the grain is running out that way, so to speak. So you're always cutting, you're always planing from the wide end to the narrow end, and you're always going with the grain. It just kind of makes it a bit easier. So there we are, just the briefest of little videos showing how I use that shooting board. Simple little trick. I mean, shooting boards are great for a number of things, but on violin making, some people use them for jointing the fronts and backs. I don't. I'll do a video on that some other time, but there we go. I don't think there's anything else to add really. Just taking it easy in the workshop again, still, as I have to at the moment. I'm off to Broadstairs Folk Week this coming weekend, which should be fun, although again, taking life pretty easy at the moment, unfortunately. Also with the whole COVID situation, I'll be keeping myself to myself, I suspect, so it's going to be a bit of a lackluster event for me compared with normal years. But anyway, there we are. Until next time, cheers folks, see ya, bye.